All right, Bob Holt's with us about an hour after we usually would have him. I know Dave Van Horn had his Zoom press conference previewing Arkansas-Murray State. It was at 11 o'clock, and so here we are. We got Bob with us right now. Bob, how's it going today?
It's going good. It's a beautiful day up here in northwest Arkansas, sunny. I haven't had a chance to get out yet, but sure looks nice outside.
Oh, I'm getting out, man. I got a basketball game later tonight, but when this show's done, I'm going to be outside for a good 2 hours. You can't waste weather like this. Though we already know the news about the rotation for this weekend. Dave said Peyton Paulette throws Friday. Saturday is going to be Caleb Bolden. Sunday, Lyle Lockhart. Was there any other breaking news that we need to know about from the Zoom press conference, or was it pretty much down to formula?
Oh, there was a couple things. Dave said people probably saw that Casey Opitz took a pretty hard, I don't know if you call it a fall or a spill. He had a very hard collision at first base. I guess it was last Sunday against Southeast Missouri State. Really, it was anybody's fault. Like the slick amount, the pitcher made an error throw. The first baseman's jumping up trying to get the ball, and Casey runs right into him. It wasn't Casey's fault, obviously. He took a real hard fall. And Dave said, I think after the game they thought he was okay, and he passed the concussion protocol test. But Dave said today that Casey, did well in practice yesterday, and he anticipated him being ready to play this weekend. But I guess they'll have to wait and see for sure. And so that was a little bit of news. And obviously, Zed Vermillion will come out of the bullpen this weekend after starting the last 2 weekends. He had some control issues, and I think Dave kind of wants to see how he does out of the bullpen. Yeah, not a lot of big news. And I did ask him how much he talks to the team about being ranked number one. He said 0. He said he's talked to them 0 times about where they're ranked, but I'm sure that the players know. So, but that was interesting. I mean, he said he hadn't talked about the rankings at all.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that because in early March it doesn't really mean very much for the team itself. I think it's more of a fan thing, and I don't know. There's some people always tell you that you'll get a team's best shot, always going to get their best shot when you're ranked number one. You know what? I think any team that's ranked like 1 through 15, 1 through 20, when you're playing an unranked team, you're going to get their best shot. I don't know if having the number one next to you really makes the target that much larger. I just think it's really cool for fans to see it. Do they need much recruiting help from being number one in the country when you look at the facilities here and the coaches and the success? Probably not. Really, for now, I think number one is really more about fans being able to look at that and say, look at that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict Arkansas will not go undefeated this year. And so at some point they're going to lose, and they'll fall from number one, and somebody else will go up there. It looks like a lot of balance. Teams are probably better than ever, whether you're an SEC team or mid-major, because of the draft, and COVID and everything. People, and if two guys get an extra year, rosters, you have experienced players or maybe younger players who would have signed out of high school or JUCO, and they're on college rosters now. So that number one could bounce around a little bit. But I actually asked him, I said, hey, you guys always have a big target on your back as number one, make it a little bit bigger. And that's where he kind of talked about how he hadn't even talked to the players about it. But I'm sure Murray State's fired up to come in here. They'd be fired up no matter what. Maybe, I don't know, if playing number one versus number 6 or whatever is that big a deal. But yeah, that's definitely fun for the fans. I think it's fun for the media to write about it. But at the end of the day, obviously the goal is to go to Omaha and win it all. And you're not going to be able to do that based on a ranking. I mean, there's so many good teams that get to Omaha. Arkansas is definitely good enough. But, geez, like I say, with the expanded rosters, there's probably, 30, 40 teams that would have a shot to go to Omaha. Maybe not a shot to win it all, but, a shot to go to Omaha.
Well, I think every team Arkansas plays in the SEC would qualify, too, as being on that list. So, yeah, baseball's not going to go undefeated, but I still would like to see 2 basketball teams go undefeated this month, however difficult that might be. The men to win the SEC tournament, legit. If they are the number 2 seed, you get the double bye. And right now, you couldn't convince me, Bob, that there's another team in the nation that's playing any better than Arkansas. I mean, we all feel pretty confident about the thought that it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but the Hogs very well could be a Final Four team.
They're playing really well. Like you said, there's few, if any, teams. Oklahoma State's playing really well right now. that would be a fun rematch. It was a really good game in Stillwater last month, and I think that would be a pretty fun rematch if they end up in the NCAA tournament. But yeah, Arkansas has got double bye, so they don't play until Friday. They have to win 3 games. It's a whole lot easier to win 3 than to win 4 in a row. Although we know in 2000 Arkansas won 4 in a row, and it's still hard to believe that's the only SEC tournament title Arkansas has won with all the great teams they've had. And obviously they haven't had a lot of great teams lately, but if you're Arkansas, you'd like to keep that going. But what you really want to do is make sure, you're getting your team lined up and healthy and everything for the NCAA tournament. But, the SEC tournament's going to be different this year. They're going to have limited fans, I think about 3,400. It won't be quite. I mean, if this was a normal year, and it might be like the old days where Arkansas would, send thousands of fans or several thousand fans to the SEC tournament. But that's not going to be the case. I think each school's got a pretty limited amount, and I guess people can still buy it from scalpers and whatnot, though that market's obviously not. I wouldn't think Kentucky fans are going to flood it the way their team has played. Maybe they will. But, and who knows, Kentucky, I think it's, obviously Arkansas and Alabama have to be the favorites, but look at the rest of the league. It's just like Missouri had a really good win at Florida last night, and you think Missouri's a hard team to figure out because they've beaten Illinois, Florida, Arkansas, here in Fayetteville, they've beaten Oregon, beaten Wichita State, but they've lost to Ole Miss twice and lost to Mississippi State. So, and that's one thing I'm really impressed with by Arkansas, and we'll see what happens Saturday. It's A&M, but Arkansas has not lost one game. I don't think that they were favored to win it. They haven't lost a team that you wouldn't expect them to. And I think there's a lot to be said for that because you look around the country every week, there's upsets and scratching losses. And I think one of the things Arkansas is not have any missteps. They haven't been tripped up by anybody they shouldn't have been.
Bob Holt. Excuse me, Bob Holt joining. I think me and you coughed right at the same time. Bob Holt, you're fine, brother. Bob Holt joining us here on Halftime. Bob, I know we saw a lot of great things from that South Carolina game, and I think we'll see a lot of the same things moving forward heading into this Texas A&M game. What was the most impressive part about that South Carolina victory but like you saw Justin Smith look like he found his hop again and really getting up to the rim and getting a lot of rebounds. You saw Moses Moody play really well and get to go 10 of 15, I believe it was, from the field. What was the most impressive thing that impressed you during that South Carolina victory?
Well, there were a lot of things, but I guess if someone was going to stand out to me, it was Desi Sills hitting 5 of 7 threes. Number one, that's really hard to do, like Eric said. That's hard to do if you're in practice and nobody's guarding you to hit 7 of 5 3 or 5 of 7 threes. It's really hard to hit 7 of 5 threes. I guess it'd be impossible. But, and Desi had played pretty well earlier, and then he hurt his shoulder. And I think that shoulder, continued to bother him. And I asked him after the game, how's your shoulder? And he sort of, he didn't say it feels great, it's 100%. He just, I think he's sort of toughing it out with that. But it was good to see, and it was good for Arkansas, certainly, to see him get that shooting touch back because that could be big for him down the stretch. So that was something that really stood out to me. Actually, 5 out of 7 threes, I mean, that's deadly. And, of course, they had a good three-point shooting night, and they've been attacking the lane a lot, attacking the basket. But South Carolina was playing the zone and kind of getting those shots, and it's encouraging that not just Desi, but other guys hit the three well. They think they hit 15 of 33, so just like 45, 46%. And they had their, on and off night shooting the three, but I think that's what is impressive about this team. They can beat you in different ways. They can be, and their defense continues to be really good. I mean, a guy like J.D. Note, I heard about this today, he obviously been instant offense off the bench most of the season. He's had a couple subpar scoring games, but boy, of late, the thing Eric Musselman's really raved about him is his defense, his on-the-ball defense, the way he's getting steals. He had 5 steals Tuesday night. So a lot of good things are happening for this team right now. They're doing a lot of things well.
Bob, have you heard any update on Jaylen Williams' availability heading into Saturday? Obviously didn't play Saturday for reasons that Eric Musselman didn't share. So have you heard any update on Jaylen Williams' availability?
I have not. We're going to talk to Eric here a little later today. My guess is if we can all read between the lines and kind of know why he's not playing, but our policy would be not to report it unless we're absolutely sure what it is. And, My guess is he would not be available for Saturday just based on the timeline, but I really don't know. That's something we're going to have to ask Eric today, and we'll see what he says about that.
I think, Bob, I mean, obviously you want Jaylen Williams to play, but you're playing A&M, and you should be able to take care of business. One more thing before we pitch it back over to Phil. Do you think heading into this SEC tournament starting next week, and obviously a lot of conversation next week is going to be revolving around that, but we've had a lot of fans, and I've had a lot of people ask me, said, hey, do you think this team can get to a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament if you win this SEC tournament? What says you? Can this team get to the 2 seed line, or do you think a 3 is about as high as they're going to get?
I would think a 3 probably is as high as they can get, but if they win that tournament, particularly if they beat Alabama, let's say they beat Alabama in the championship game, I think that's the only way they'd be bracketed to play because they're the 1 and 2 seeds. Well, that would make them 2 out of 3 against Alabama, who most people project as a 2 seed. That they would have beaten Alabama on a neutral floor as well as at home. That game in Tuscaloosa, honestly, is kind of a distant memory. They're a lot different team now. Justin Smith is playing great. And I know you have to look, if you're the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, you have to look at the totality of the season. But certainly I think you look at how a team's, been playing of late, not like the last 2 games, maybe the last month. And so I think if Arkansas were to win the SEC tournament in particular, if they were to beat Alabama, then I guess they'd have a shot at the 2 seed because, if I'm a committee member, I'd say, well, okay, Alabama, how do we put Alabama at 2 seed over Arkansas when Arkansas is just, beat them twice in the last 2 times, beat them on a neutral floor. It has, at that point, let's assume Arkansas beats A&M. You never know. You can't take anything for granted. But at that point, Arkansas would have beaten, would it be 11-3? It would be 14 straight SEC opponents. And their only loss would be, in that stretch, would be to Oklahoma State on the road. And I assume Oklahoma State's going to finish pretty strong. So you take all that into consideration, maybe they could get to a 2 seed. I think that'd be the only way they could do it is to beat Alabama. So if Arkansas fans were rooting for a 2 seed, maybe root for the Tide to get to that championship game as well. Because I think if Alabama got upset and Arkansas beat, Florida or Missouri or whoever, that'd be a good win, but it wouldn't be quite the same as beating Alabama, the SEC champion.
Bob, great stuff. You started the answer saying 3, and I think now I'm believing 2. So I think you went through some logical reasons there. Hopefully they all happen. Enjoy the basketball with the women's side this week, the baseball too, and we'll catch up with you next Thursday, Bob. Thanks so
Bob.
much.
Okay, sounds good. You guys take care.
Bob Holt, Democrat-Gazette. Did you hear him go through that logic there? He went all the way from a 3 to a 2 if a few things do happen. I think those things can happen. You can also have a lot of fun if you go over to 906 Cocktail and Cigar Lounge this weekend. They are open tonight till midnight, Friday and Saturday until 1. Just go to 906lounge.com and you can learn about all their outstanding menu items. You can also find top shelf spirits, the best hand-rolled cigars available anywhere in Arkansas, and a premium small plate menu, plus a state-of-the-art airflow system that replaces the air inside the building every 4 minutes. Go to 906lounge.com to learn more. They're at 906 Garrison Avenue in the Fort. Halftime homework to wrap it up.